You ever been handed a fortune with a catch so insane it might destroy your entire family? That's what happened to me. I'm Ethan, a broke car rental owner who suddenly inherited millions from my eccentric great-aunt. But her condition? I had to make my family's lives miserable to earn it. At first, I thought it was just a game, but I didn't realize I was the one being played. If you've ever dreamed of putting arrogant, judgmental family members in their place and getting rewarded for it, hit that like button, subscribe, and buckle up. Because this isn't just a revenge story. It's a test of creativity, betrayal, and one billionaire's twisted idea of justice. Ever feel like life is one long joke, and you're the punchline? That's where I was, sitting behind the dusty counter of my dying car rental business, surrounded by unpaid bills and faded dreams, watching the phone stay silent like it was mourning with me. I was Ethan, 33 years old, broke, bitter, and one bad review away from shutting down ride-right rentals for good. The thing is, I didn't start out this jaded. I believed in the business. I put everything into it. My savings, my pride, my sanity. But after years of undercutting competitors, getting ghosted by customers, and being humiliated by my own family, something inside me just gave up. Then came the email. Subject line, Estate of Mildred Worthington. Great Aunt Mildred, the family's eccentric matriarch. She once brought a live goat to a funeral because he looked sad. She wore mink coats in July and insisted that her 12 dead husbands all visit her in dreams, on schedule. But she loved me, even when the rest of the family called me weird, broke, or a disappointment. Mildred always winked at me like she knew something the rest didn't. And now, according to her lawyer, she'd left me her entire fortune, $14.6 million. There's just one catch. To receive the inheritance, I had to, get this, make life as inconvenient, frustrating, or embarrassing as possible for my immediate family members. And I had to do it in ways that were creative. No simple name calling. No feasts. I had to prank them, emotionally rattle them, humiliate them. My first thought? This can't be real. My second? Let's get to work. Now, to understand why this was more than just a prank spree, you need to meet my family. My brother Jake is the kind of guy who does push-ups at family dinners. Obsessed with being alpha, calls himself a wolf among sheep. He once said real men don't cry, then cried when his protein order got delayed. Savannah, my sister, is a social media wannabe influencer who treats every brunch like a Vogue cover shoot. She's never worked a day in her life, but judges me for owning a struggling business. Dad is old school, the kind of man who thinks therapy is for the weak, and once told me, you're not a man until you've laid brick in the rain. Spoiler, I hate bricks. I hate rain. And Mom? She plays sweet but quietly drops lines like, it's okay, Ethan, not everyone's meant to succeed. So yeah, 14 million to mess with these people. That wasn't punishment. It was therapy. I started with Jake. Because of course I did. He rented from my lot occasionally, usually demanding muscle cars and boasting about his V8 addiction. So this time, I told him we had a surprise upgrade for him. He showed up flexing in a tank top, sunglasses perched on his shaved head like he was auditioning for Fast and Furious 12. I walked him to the car. It was a bubblegum pink smart car, tiny, squeaky clean, and proudly labeled with a custom decal. Princess Rider, with glitter everywhere. He stared at it, then at me. You serious? Best gas mileage in town, I grinned. And compact. Great for city driving. He cursed, stormed around the thing twice, and finally got in, knees up to his chest like a toddler in a toy car. The roof barely cleared his head. He drove off, windows up, red-faced. Later, I got a text. You're dead to me. And for the first time in a long while, I smiled. It felt good, but weird. Like eating dessert before dinner. Like punching someone and realizing you kind of liked it. I wasn't raised for revenge. I was the peacemaker, the fixer, the guy who made excuses for everyone else's behavior. But this was different. This time, I had permission from the grave, no less, to strike back. And not just for petty reasons. For every time Jake made me feel like less of a man. For every smug smile Savannah gave when I couldn't afford something. For every, you're not like the rest of us, that came from my parents' lips. This wasn't just a game. This was justice. And Jake's humiliation was just the beginning. Next up, Savannah, the queen of curated perfection. And I had the perfect ride for her gala night out. A limousine that looked like it was dragged from a scrapyard and sounded like a dying rhino. Let's just say she didn't post that ride on Instagram. After Jake's pink princess ride humiliation, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Control. Not the aggressive kind Jake loved, but the quiet kind, the kind where you can tip the scales with just a little nudge. The kind where you decide the rules for once. And next on my list, Savannah. Instagram royalty. Self-proclaimed fashionista. Obsessed with status. If Jake cared about dominance, Savannah cared about image. Her whole world was built on it. Photo shoots for coffee runs, designer outfits she never paid for, and captions like couture queen vibes, only nail polish sparkles. She once unfollowed our cousin because he posted a picture wearing Crocs. I'm not joking. So naturally, I knew exactly how to hit her where it hurt. Her vanity. I called her up and offered her the ultimate upgrade, a free stretch limousine for her night out at a local fashion influencer gala. She squealed like a teenager. "I'll tag your business," she said. "You'll get so much exposure." I smiled and said I'd even throw in a driver. Well, I didn't tell her. The limo was a barely legal 1993 beater I bought at auction. It had peeling paint, broken air conditioning, and a stereo stuck on an 8-hour loop of early 2000s reggaeton. Oh, and the transmission liked to stall every 20 minutes. The night of the event, she stepped out in full glam. Gold dress, high heels, and enough makeup to qualify as face armor. Then she saw the limo. "Ethan, what is that?" "Limited edition," I lied. "Retro aesthetic. Very Brooklyn Underground." She hesitated. She always feared being out of the loop. Reluctantly, she climbed in. 15 minutes later, my phone buzzed. "Savannah, the AC is broken." "I'm melting." "Savannah, this thing smells like cheese." "Savannah, it just stalled in front of the venue." Then, radio silence. I later saw a clip on TikTok. Someone had filmed a clunker of a limo blocking the hotel entrance while a screaming blonde in stilettos kicked the door open and stumbled out, frizzy hair whipping in the wind. The caption? "Rich girl meltdown IRL skull fire." Over 80,000 likes. She didn't tag my business. Instead, she blocked me on everything. The next morning, Mom called. "Why is Savannah crying in my bathroom?" "She says you sabotaged her." I shrugged. She still got her ride. Didn't cost her a thing. "You're being childish, Ethan." That was always their favorite word when I fought back. Childish. But really? I was just getting started. Each prank gave me something I never expected. Not just satisfaction, but clarity. See, when you spend years being the family's punching bag, you forget who you are. You convince yourself you're just the problem, the disappointment, the black sheep. But this was a reminder that maybe I wasn't broken. Maybe they were. And maybe Aunt Mildred saw something in me they never did. Potential. Now, messing with Savannah was one thing. But my father? That was dangerous territory. See, Dad wasn't the yelling type. He was the disappointed silence type. The heavy sighs. The "I'm not mad, just let down" kind of guy. He built his life with his hands. Contractor, welder, the kind of man who sees therapy as weakness and feelings as unnecessary. He never understood me. Never tried to. Once, when I was 12, I made a short film for school and won an award. He didn't come to the screening. Said he had to fix the garage door. So yeah, I had years of quiet resentment buried under my skin. And now, I had the perfect outlet. I rented him a custom-built unicycle with a megaphone strapped to the side. One that blasted "Who Let the Dogs Out" on an eternal loop, and told him it was part of a Green City initiative. Let's just say, Dad wasn't barking with joy. If Jake made me feel small, and Savannah made me feel invisible, my dad, he made me feel like a mistake, not through screaming or rage. That would have been easier. My dad punished with silence, with raised eyebrows, with long looks that said, "You'll never measure up." He once told me, flat out, that real men didn't waste time pretending to be creative. I was 16. I just shown him my first short story. So yeah, when Aunt Mildred's will gave me permission to make him suffer, even just a little, I took it personally. But I didn't want violence. I wanted humiliation. Dad prided himself on being a man of the people. Always talked about how the government was soft and how real change came from real folks. So I made up a fake local program called the Eco Commute Challenge, offering eco-friendly rentals to veterans and retirees in exchange for government rebates and a small feature in the local paper. He ate it up. Finally, something useful, he muttered, signing the rental form. He didn't ask what the vehicle was. He just came by the next morning, expecting maybe an electric truck or a hybrid SUV. Instead, I wheeled out a chrome-plated unicycle with a built-in megaphone that played "Who Let the Dogs Out" every time the pedals moved. He blinked, then growled, "You got to be kidding me." I kept a straight face. "Regulations, Dad. Carbon-neutral transport. This is the future." He stared at me. I stared back. Then, with a sigh straight out of a Clint Eastwood film, he mounted the unicycle and began pedaling down the street, angrily wobbling, knees high, while that infernal Baha Men's song echoed through suburbia. Neighbors stared. Kids laughed. A dog barked and chased him for 2 blocks. He nearly fell 3 times, and when the chain snapped mid-turn, he hurled the thing across a lawn and limped back home in silence. It was beautiful. Later, he texted me, "Your grandfather would have disowned you. No hello, no puntuación." Just that dagger of guilt right through the ribs. But I didn't reply, because I was done apologizing for not being who they wanted me to be. And then came Mom. She was the hardest target. Not because she was kind. She wasn't, not really. But because she was passive-aggressive. Mom never yelled. She just disappointed. If I shared good news, she'd say, "Let's hope it lasts." If I vented, she'd sigh, "You always did overthink things." She didn't fight me. She dismissed me, made me feel like I was always on thin ice, and somehow it was my fault the lake existed. So, yeah, she needed a lesson. She was attending a fundraising gala for the local opera, her pride and joy, where she could wear pearls and play queen of culture. I told her we had a sponsor costume she had to wear on behalf of a donor. Said it was a limited edition high-fashion piece. Well, I gave her a giant inflatable unicorn suit, pastel pink, complete with wobbling horn, blinking LED lights, and a rainbow tail that flopped when she walked. She unzipped the bag and stared. "Is this a joke?" "Nope. New fashion movement. Genderless. Whimsical. Viral on TikTok." That word, viral, worked like magic on her vanity. She showed up, in the suit, walked into a black-tie fundraiser glowing like a Christmas balloon on acid. The room went silent. Cameras clicked. One woman spilled wine. A man whispered, "What in God's name?" She stood still, frozen by her own pride, then turned, tail bouncing behind her, and left without a word. She didn't speak to me for a week. By now, I should have felt satisfied, vindicated, but instead, something felt off. Every prank brought me joy, but it was mixed with doubt, a creeping unease. Why weren't they fighting back? Why weren't they really angry? They acted surprised but not shocked, like they were reading a script. And then, the lawyer came back. He showed up at my office again, this time with a new document. Not from Aunt Mildred's estate, but a personal letter. Handwritten. He slid it across the counter. And when I opened it, I felt my stomach turn. Because it said, "They're not who you think they are. They're part of the test too. And it's about to get harder." It wasn't the handwriting that rattled me. It was the tone. It was unmistakably Aunt Mildred's. Quirky, razor-sharp, and slightly theatrical. But beneath the flair, there was something else. Intention. If you're reading this, then you've made a dent in the world I've left behind. But before you celebrate, you should know something important. The people you've humiliated aren't victims. They're part of the test. Willing participants. Carefully chosen. I read the letter 3 times. Then I laughed. A nervous, bitter laugh. What did she mean, willing participants? Jake practically ripped my head off after the smart car. Savannah blocked me on every platform. Dad threatened to disown me, and Mom didn't speak to me for a week. That wasn't acting, was it? I paced my office, memories flashing like puzzle pieces rearranging themselves. Jake never tried to return the car. Savannah never posted the meltdown publicly. Only the TikTok crowd caught it. Dad did fill out that fake eco-challenge paperwork without a fight. And Mom, she wore that unicorn suit with very little resistance. Almost like she wanted to. Was it possible? They were all in on it? Was this entire thing some twisted scavenger hunt? Had I been the only one not reading the script? I sat down and let my mind wander to childhood summers at Mildred's estate. She'd always said I was born in the wrong family. She called me the one with spark, and she used to read me Greek myths, not for the morals, but for the tests. She said heroes weren't born, they were provoked, given obstacles that either destroyed them or forged them. Maybe this wasn't revenge. Maybe this was a forge. I demanded answers from her lawyer. He just smiled. She trusted that, in time, you'd figure it out. This wasn't about punishing your family. It was about proving something. Proving what? That you could think on your feet. That you had wit, resilience, flair. That you could own power without becoming cruel. That you were entertaining. Entertaining. Ethan, your aunt didn't want her money going to a boring heir. She wanted a protagonist. It all made sense in the most absurd, theatrical, Mildred kind of way. My family didn't hate me. They were playing characters in a psychodrama designed to test every piece of my identity. Jake was pride. Savannah was vanity. Dad was tradition. Mom was doubt. And each one had been poked, prodded, and embarrassed not for punishment, but to see how I would handle power. Would I go too far? Would I break? Would I turn bitter? Or would I rise? The lawyer handed me one last envelope. It read, "Final phase, go big or go beige." Inside, a list, a schedule, and a key to a warehouse. The instructions were clear. Rent your entire family a fleet of Segways. Attach ridiculous costumes to each one. Make them ride through the downtown arts district during peak hours. It was a parade of shame. But this time, it wasn't a test of cruelty. It was a test of style. Could I make it hilarious without being harsh? Could I turn embarrassment into performance? Could I turn revenge into revelry? Suddenly, the inheritance wasn't just about money. It was about something deeper. Whether I could stop playing defense and start telling my own story. A story where I wasn't the underdog anymore. I was the ringmaster. And my final act was about to steal the show. Next stop, downtown. My family. In costume. On Segways. And the truth? I wasn't mad anymore. I was ready to put on a show. The morning of the Segway spectacle, I stood outside a rented warehouse with 5 vehicles lined up like soldiers waiting for war. Except instead of tanks, they were Segways. And instead of armor, they wore unicorn horns, banana suits, chicken feathers, and a hot dog costume that jingled when you moved. My entire family was scheduled to arrive in 30 minutes. No explanations. Just costumes and instructions to ride. I wasn't nervous. For the first time in my life, I felt completely in control of the narrative. This was my story now, and I was going to end it with a bang. They showed up, one by one, silent, unreadable expressions on their faces. Jake stared at the banana suit. "This one's mine, isn't it?" I nodded. He grunted and stepped in. Savannah pouted at the chicken costume, but didn't say a word. Dad looked at the Segway like it insulted his ancestors. Mom just sighed and reached for the unicorn horn. No arguments. No division. They knew. And that's when I realized. They'd known all along. We rolled through downtown like a circus of outcasts. Jake zoomed ahead in his banana suit, flipping off onlookers who dared to laugh. Savannah clucked in rhythm, oddly committed to her chicken persona. Dad wobbled like a statue, learning to dance, eyes narrowed but mouth twitching with amusement. And Mom, my ever-so-proper mother, actually neighed once in character. People filmed. Cars honked. A street performer joined us with a trumpet solo. It was chaos. It was absurd. It was perfect. And in that moment, I wasn't delivering punishment. I was delivering a performance. We weren't mocking each other anymore. We were bonding through madness. After the ride, we gathered in the warehouse, sweaty and breathless. That's when the lawyer arrived again, this time with champagne. "Congratulations," he said. "You've passed." "Passed what?" I asked, even though I already knew. He looked around at my family. Jake smiled. Savannah nodded. Dad clapped me on the back. Mom raised her glass. And then the truth dropped. "We were in on it the entire time," Savannah said. "Every meltdown, every tantrum. Mildred hired us to test you, Jake added. To see if you'd fight back or fall apart, Dad muttered. And to see if you could do it with heart, Mom finished. I should have been furious, but I wasn't. I was stunned, and somehow relieved, because for the first time in my life, they saw me. Really saw me, not as the failure, not as the weak link, but as the leader of this mad, hilarious, chaotic show. Aunt Mildred had given me the most outrageous gift imaginable. The chance to reclaim my story on my terms. The lawyer raised a glass. As executor of Mildred Worthington's estate, I now officially transfer all holdings, accounts, and properties, totaling $14.6 million, to Ethan Ryder. I didn't flinch, because by then, the money felt like the least important part. The real reward was walking through fire and coming out smiling. You know what they say, revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes, it's best served absurd, with feathers and horns, and the Baja men screaming in the background. Because real revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about rising up, taking back your voice, proving to yourself and the world that you are not a joke. You are the punchline and the storyteller. And that's priceless. If this story made you smile, or gave you a tiny hit of that sweet, sweet justice, go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe for more twisted tales, and drop a comment below. What's the funniest revenge you've ever seen pulled off? And remember, sometimes the best way to heal is to prank your whole damn family.